Hello, this is Randall Borden, and this is my podcast. I'm an attorney in Maryland and Virginia doing family law. And today I'd like to welcome Brad Plasky. He is an experienced business executive, lawyer, and strategist with over 15 years of experience helping startups and small to medium companies grow. He has worked as a chief operating officer, a chief revenue officer, and a chief commercial officer. He's led teams in Houston, Atlanta, Dallas, and San Francisco Bay Area. Brad focuses on creating growth strategies, improving profits, and making sure the business operations support the company goals. He has strong skills as a software as a service business. I guess that's SaaS business, fundraising, corporate governance, sales, legal compliance, and operational systems. Brad is known for making tough decisions, challenging the usual way of doing things, and building high-performance teams. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we can
Thank
jump
you,
right
Randall.
in here. So you've held positions as a COO, a CRO, a CCO, and how do you define real executive leadership in scaling a company?
Well, Randall, real executive leadership is about creating clarity in chaos. I mean, titles really don't matter, but decision quality does matter. At scale, you're constantly making high stakes decisions with incomplete information. That's just the reality. The best leaders can move between strategy and execution seamlessly. But if you're stuck in the weeds or you're stuck at 30,000 feet, you're really not leading, you're reacting. And so, the job of executive leadership is to simplify complexity so the entire team can move faster and with confidence. I mean, I saw this firsthand stepping into a firm where leadership was bouncing between micromanaging intake calls and discussing long-term expansion strategies in the same hour. No consistency whatsoever, no clarity, and the team felt it immediately.
What would you say separates a strategic operator from someone who just manages tasks, as you just described, doing micromanaging and then switching over to the big picture back and forth?
Randall, a task manager asks, is it done? A strategic operator asks, should we be doing it at all? The difference is understanding consequence. I mean, if you can't tie what your team is doing to revenue or margin, it's just activity. A lot of companies look busy, but they're not actually moving forward. And so strategic operators constantly eliminate work that doesn't create a measurable impact. At one firm that I was working with, the intake team was logging in everything perfectly, but their conversion rate was under 30%.
Oh,
So the system looked clean, but the
right.
business wasn't growing.
Look good on paper, but not on the results. Okay.
Exactly.
So when you step into a company, what is the first metric or what's the first thing that you would analyze?
Clearly, one thing, revenue per employee. It
Oh,
tells you about efficiency immediately. Then I look at the gap between gross and net revenue because that exposes both pricing and contract issues. Those two numbers will give me a faster read on business than almost anything else I look at. The top line rev can lie. Revenue quality usually doesn't lie. You can often identify overhiring or underpricing within minutes from just those two data points that I mentioned. I walked into one firm generating solid revenue, so it seemed, but when we ran the numbers, they were massively overstaffed relative to output, and explained everything.
that would be the per employee, because that would the massive staffing, and then the gap, the difference between gross and net would be, I guess, a rough measurement of the efficiency. Most startups chase growth. In fact, I think all startups are programmed to chase growth, but how do you balance top line growth, as you said, the growth with the another buzzword, EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization in the discipline that you bring?
You know what, Randall? Another good question. I simplify it. Revenue, quite frankly, is vanity. EBITDA is
No?
sanity,
Okay.
and cash is reality. I mean, growth without margin awareness just delays problems. Every growth decision should be tied to a contribution margin. And every founder needs to answer one question. At what point does this business sustain itself? If they can't answer that, they're
Mhm.
scaling on hope.
Right.
And sustainable growth always comes from understanding the economics. You always want to understand the economics before accelerating the spend. I mean, I've seen firms pushing hard on marketing spend while losing money on every single new client. They were
Mhm.
scaling activity, but they weren't scaling profitability. I mean, it's very common.
So you're looking at the not just the overall growth, but the margin also. I guess the going for the
Correct.
profit margin. Okay. All right. So I guess in the same line, what's a screw up? What's the most dangerous mistake that founders make when scaling for revenue?
Clearly, the one that I see most is founders hiring ahead of the process. They land a big deal, they hire quickly to support it, and then the deal shifts or churns, but the overhead remains.
Right.
So they've scaled up. The second mistake is confusing pipeline activity with pipeline reality. A full CRM doesn't mean you have revenue. I've seen thousands of active deals in a CRM that haven't been touched in months. Very, very common, especially in the field of law. When those two issues combine, the business looks like it's growing, while actually it's becoming less stable. I've inherited systems, during my career where the pipeline looked incredible on paper, but when we audited it, most of it was fluff. It was stale. It really wasn't revenue.
But wasn't moving towards revenue. It was just stuck there. Hadn't, as you say, hadn't been touched in months.
It was stale.
So you need to do I guess an aging almost. Well, okay. So another buzzword, there's sales versus GTM strategy. What does GTM mean?
GTM means go to market.
Sales versus, okay. And what makes a go-to-market strategy actually executable and not just impressive on paper?
Three things. Role clarity, clean handoffs,
Okay.
and a closed feedback loop within the leadership team. Most go-to-market breakdowns don't happen in the market. They happen internally. And here's the test that you can apply. If your strategy takes you 45 minutes to explain to a new rep,
Right.
it's not executable. It's aspirational. It's not executable. The best go-to-market strategies are simple enough to be executed consistently under pressure. So simplicity is the key. At my current firm, we tightened intake handoffs between marketing intake, between marketing intake and the attorneys, and the conversion improved without increasing the lead volume.
So the attorneys were still getting the same amount, but they were turning the prospects into real clients.
Exactly. They were optimizing the leads that they were working with, and they did that by tightening the handoffs between marketing, intake, and the attorneys who are doing the consults.
I guess another part where things could go wrong is how would you align sales, operation, and finance so that the growth doesn't break the company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the key is shared metrics, individual accountability, and having a weekly operating rhythm. If you have those three things, you can get in alignment. You have one dashboard, you have one conversation across all three functions. And so what that does, Randall, is it forces problems to surface in real time. It's not not at the end of the quarter when it's too late to fix them. So, essentially these three functional areas are talking. Alignment, it's not about the structure, it's about forcing the right conversations at the right cadence. When I've implemented that rhythm, issues that would sit, for weeks would surface in 48 hours because of these conversations. And that alone improved execution.
You force them to surface in the meetings or in the conversation so they don't sit for weeks, I guess, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
When you try to scale in aggressive scaling, is that possible without strong standard operating procedures and a process discipline? Can you just go?
No, you can. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that so many of these companies just charge in and want to capture market share at whatever cost and then deal with the consequences later.
Well, you know what? You can scale without process, but you can't scale sustainably. I mean, without standard operating procedures, the company is running on memory, and that breaks under growth. Breaks under where you have a lot of attrition or turnover. I mean, SOPs are not meant to be, aren't bureaucracy. They're actually what allows a business to grow without the founder being involved in every decision. They turn individual knowledge. The SOPs turn individual knowledge into organizational capabilities. I've seen firms where two people held all the institutional knowledge, and when one left, performance tanked almost overnight.
So the standard operating procedures, process discipline, and then you can shove in the growth of the aggressive scaling. One as
You
the
can scale because you're not relying on memory. You're relying on repeatability
right,
of
right.
process,
Hmm.
a defined process. Randall, you wouldn't have to be at your firm if you had SOPs that were being executed properly, right? Because you
It,
know what's
mhm.
happening, and it's happening with each person who sits in that chair.
Yep, that's the goal. Amen to that. You're a licensed attorney, I'm a licensed attorney. How does that change the way that you make executive decisions?
That's another good question. I think my whole law background has shifted how I think about risk. Most of the leadership that I've engaged with think in terms of probability. This probably won't happen.
Right.
That probably won't happen. But, lawyers, you're trained to think in terms of exposure. If it does happen, how bad is it?
Mhm.
And so when you have that mindset, it protects the business from decisions that may look attractive, on the surface, but have serious downside. It also forces a level of discipline in evaluating second and third order consequences. I've seen deals that look like easy wins commercially, but had no contract terms that would have created any kind of that they had contract terms that would have created long-term liabilities. You can't tell a book by its cover. That's all I got to say.
All right, you got to look inside the front, the
Yeah.
back, every page, hold it up sideways, shake it out. And then
Yes. Yes.
the being, I guess, being a licensed attorney kind of trains you've read 1,000 cases of something similar going wrong, and it trains you, I guess, another eye to look at it with, and try to avoid the landmines like that. Okay.
Exactly.
So with a startup, obviously starting up, they were likely to underestimate the legal risk during the rapid expansion. Is where would they overlook, or what would they overlook in that when they're starting up and growing quickly?
So there's really, there's three areas that are very common. You probably wouldn't think of them per se, but the number one is employment classification, mischaracterizing contractors versus employees, data privacy, underestimating, your obligation with respect to your client's data, and early contract snafus, especially early contracts. The terms you agree to at $5 million, when you're at a $5 million run rate, can snowball into a structure that limits you at 50 million if you don't revisit them. Most founders, as you know, underestimate how quickly small little legal shortcuts compound themselves into
Right.
constraints.
Mhm.
And I've reviewed agreements where pricing and service obligations made sense early on. They're trying to jumpstart their business. I get it, but became a major constraint as the company scaled. So to your point, everybody wants to run ahead to scale without serious contemplation of contract implications can be a problem long term.
Or without building in the ability to adapt the contract once you grow. Once you get to that level, you would want to go back and revisit it. Do you need
That's
that
right.
much space? Do you need more space? You want to exercise your option on the rest of the warehouse, get better terms on you're buying so many, you deserve a massive volume discount. At that moment, that's when your contract should help you out instead of locking you in.
Exactly.
Interesting.
If you don't revisit, caveat emptor.
All right. Now, obviously, if you misclassify your employees, you're going to end up with a lawsuit from the employee and/or tax problems, Department of Labor, and then the data privacy is obvious, should be obvious to everyone. So
Right.
those are the three. That's interesting. Okay.
I'll tell you when the Department of Labor knocks on your door with an
Mhm.
employment classification issue, and you got
Yep.
hundreds of employees that you've been paying as contractors, whether they be
Mhm.
realtors, mortgage loan officers, IT people.
Yep.
The
Yep.
minute they fail the test, you are personally on the hook for the withholdings
Mhm.
that should have been held in trust for the state or federal government.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it is not dischargeable in bankruptcy.
Mhm.
And good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, but it's the other. There's just other entities also: the Employment Commission, Social Security Administration, the
Every
state,
one of them.
the federal. Yep, yep. So I think you probably touched on this already, but is there one contract or compliance issue that will quietly destroy the margins? We talked about the ones that blow up, I guess, right? But what about the ones that do it quietly?
I think the sort of the hidden issue that, raises its ugly head down the road is auto renewal clauses in contracts. I
Yep,
can
yep.
look at my American Express bill and I can see 10 apps that I'm paying for right now that are getting auto renewed. And by the time I look at the statement, they've already debited my account. I mean, companies miss notice windows all day long. They
Yep.
miss notice windows. They get locked into another year of spend. You
Mm.
multiply that. I mean, at a commercial or enterprise level across dozens of vendors, and believe me, Randall, it adds up. It adds up
Mhm.
fast. I
Right,
mean,
right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. A simple contract audit usually pays for itself almost immediately. I mean, I know it would pay for itself if I just reviewed my American Express. It's
Right.
one of the easiest way to recover cash without changing anything operationally. We ran one audit with the firm I was with. We uncovered multiple agreements renewing within a 30 to 60 day window, prospectively.
Right.
Nobody was tracking. So
Yeah.
it was, low hanging fruit, easy money to recover.
So, I mean, is that something that you do internally, or you'd hire an audit like that, renewal? I should say a renewal audit.
No, I use the word audit pretty loosely. I think you can do it internally.
Assign somebody, go find all the contracts, and then I guess just figure out what find the renewal clause, and then track it and decide if you really need 200 of these things renewing, or would one or two just be just as well, right?
That's
Oh,
exactly right. Get used to using the word unsubscribe.
unsubscribe. That's right. That's right. And so you kind of touched on that before, but at what level should a startup hire a COO versus just continuing to double down on sales?
You hire a COO when you someone in your position, the CEO of a law firm, when you're spending more than 30% of your time on ops. And quite frankly, that you probably are spending more than
Right,
30%
right.
of your time on
Yeah.
ops, and you've taken steps to remedy that. At that point, the firm is already paying the cost of a COO by, they just
Yeah.
don't have the role filled. I mean,
Right, right.
they're using the CEO as the COO. The real question is
Mhm.
where the constraint is. I mean,
Could
you
you
really
explain
have to
that?
distinguish what's breaking. I mean, if ops are breaking, you hire a COO.
Right.
If revenue isn't repeatable, then you invest in sales. I
Okay.
mean, but misdiagnosing that can be one of the most expensive mistakes a company can make. I
Right.
mean, I've seen companies hire aggressively on the sales side when the real issue was delivery, and this is very common in the field of law,
Right.
where you can bring in the business, but if you don't have the capacity to deliver a white glove experience, it only makes things worse.
And then figuring that out is the make or break question for the whole company or for the whole firm.
Exactly.
Very complicated. Okay. I mean, how would you know? What red flags would tell you that it isn't structurally ready to scale up?
There are three. There are
What you just
three
said, right?
red
Yeah.
three
Mhm.
three red three red flags.
Uh,
Super common. First, believe me, I think you'll be familiar with this. Every decision runs through the founder.
yep, yep, yep. Okay.
Right?
Guilty.
That problematic? It's a
Uh,
huge red flag. It's everywhere. There's not a startup that doesn't suffer from that. Second, there's no unified ownership of the revenue component. It's scattered, and there has to be full alignment on who owns revenue, and that person has to be held accountable for performance. And third, and this is something that people really don't think about, is that your finance team or your accounting team can only tell you what happened last month. So it's a retrospective
oh,
analysis. That's not interesting. I mean, the game today is not what happened last month, but what's going to happen next,
mhm.
right? I mean, so a company that is relying on what happened in the past is a company that's flying blind, in my mind. I mean,
Mhm.
scaling under those conditions is almost always amplifies existing problems. In one case that I had, every approval, pricing, hiring, basic ops required the founder, and it completely capped the growth. I mean, just
Right, right.
completely stunted everything.
And what do you mean by owning revenue? What was, you mentioned that phrase?
You're going to have one chief revenue officer. It could be the chief commercial officer. This
Mhm.
person owns all the revenue streams, and so they're able to align their team around the strategic revenue goals of the firm. And so you don't have it scattered. You don't have. I'll just use a law firm example. You don't have somebody responsible for the criminal practice. You
Oh.
don't have a responsible for that revenue stream, and then somebody else responsible for the family law revenue stream.
Right.
Another person responsible for the bankruptcy revenue stream. Revenue is revenue, and all three of those report in.
Which is exactly the opposite of the law firms. You'll have a partner in charge of of this department, or a partner in charge of that department,
Exactly.
and the associates and the paralegals and the secretaries under them, and they just do their job on that part of the firm. And over here you have the estate planning, and they're doing their job on this part of the firm, and they meet each other over coffee once a day.
That's it. You know the problem well. You have three orgs within one org.
Right.
Not interesting.
Mhm.
Not scalable.
And then you get one department either gets too big or runs into trouble, and the business falls off, and you don't know about it. The other two partners don't know about it until it's too late. It's like, why didn't you tell us this last month? Now yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the partnership model of law firms, is having that. Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so I got a question. What's harder then, fixing a broken culture or fixing broken operations?
No question about it. Culture, without a doubt. I mean, with operations, you can find a clear or agree on a clear diagnosis. You can
Mhm.
agree on a solution. Culture is behavioral. I
Right.
mean, it lives in how people act when no one's around. I
Hmm.
mean, it only changes when leadership is willing to acknowledge their role in the problem, and that's the hard part. Without that level of ownership, complicity, culture initiatives tend to become kind of surface level, wrapping paper that are pretty
Right.
ineffective. I've seen operational fixes can happen quickly in weeks,
Hmm.
but really making honest cultural shifts take a lot of time. It's very, very problematic and can be outcome determinative, not only from a recruiting and retention perspective,
Hmm.
but from a performance perspective.
Now that's it. Is it worth it trying to fix the culture, or does that break up the firm? The litigation department's out spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on expert witnesses, and I'm the one over here making the money, the tortoise and the hare, and now they want my cash flow to pay for their wild speculative swing for the fences litigation strategies. That why should I sacrifice myself for them?
It's a
And that,
super hard problem. The one practice area just spins off. I mean,
right.
you're seeing whole teams leaving, AmLaw 200 firms
Yeah.
and either starting their own or literally moving their entire book of business and team to a firm where the culture is more aligned with, their thinking and worldview.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, and you see how that people could feel that way. Like, I'm working 12 hours a day bringing in the revenue, and these guys are out whining and dining their entertainment clients, and sometimes don't pay their bills, but they're having all the fun, and I'm back here in the office cranking out paperwork. Now they want me to pay for it. Ugh. Yep.
Exactly. You're the grinder and the minder, and they're out there living lavishly as a wannabe finder.
Mhm. Okay, so as a founder, and now this is the solution. Here comes the solution for everything, right?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, automation, and the future is here. So the founders replace the usual CRM stacks, client relationship management processes and stacks, with artificial intelligence agents. Is that an innovation, or is it an operational risk, or does it depend? Or how does that work out in reality?
I think it's both. I mean, AI amplifies whatever system you have, right?
That's
It's
true,
my it's
good or
my bread
bad.
and butter. I,
Hmm.
I, I have nothing poor to say about it. I use it every day, all day. If your process is clean, then using AI can be pretty powerful. If your process is broken, quite frankly, it can just scale the chaos faster. I think the rule
Yes.
is kind of simple. Fix your process first, then automate it.
Right.
And then, the technology, the AI should accelerate, the
Hmm.
clarity and not compensate for the absence of it. I've seen AI layered into messy intake systems, and it just makes the confusion happen faster. That's what I've seen myself. But hey,
Advertising all over.
I'm a big proponent of AI, as you know,
Right.
and when used responsibly and constructively, it can be a game changer.
But it's not sold that way. It's like here's the magic bullet or the magic beans, the emperor's new clothes, and if you just get this, you don't have to
Yeah,
bother with all that other, taking notes and when you talk to clients and recording the times to follow up. AI will do all that for you.
exactly.
And then it doesn't, and the salesman's already moved on. So and you're stuck in an automatic renewal contract.
Exactly.
I guess into the next question, how in the same light, so how do you think about, or how should an executive, a manager executive, think about automation without losing strategic control? I guess know what you're getting yourself into would be the first thing, right?
True,
Hmm.
true that. I mean, but I think you can kind of boil that down into two pieces, or really just here's what I would say. You can automate execution. So you can automate a process.
Right.
You cannot automate judgment. To put that in perspective, anything that requires context is nuanced or risk assessment should stay human. And every automated system needs visibility. I say that. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're using it constructively and you're creating a dashboard that somebody reviews weekly. Without that, you don't catch problems until they become, real issues. So control comes from visibility, not from avoiding automation. So moral of the story is automate where you can, leave the judgment to the humans.
So you had said that up above that you want to have more frequent information flow so you can catch the problems more quickly. And I guess the lesson here is that AI and automation could become one of those problems that you've got to keep an eye on every week and make sure everything it's working the way it's supposed to, and not just set it and forget it and hope you come back.
True.
Yeah,
No, you have to have clear reporting behind it. So,
right.
and it has to be updated. It has to be current. It's only as good as the architecture. It's only as good as the prompt.
Right, right. If there's a problem, catch it while it's early and catch it while it's small, and then solve it that way rather than waiting for it to blow up.
Visibility is the truth will set you free.
Hmm.
So control comes from visibility.
What you've seen in my firm is we have the daily meetings, keeping track of what everyone's doing, and we have the weekly meetings of all the cases, the status, spotting the problems, hopefully dealing with the what needs to be done, and then it's tough to start but easy to maintain is what I found. That once you get into that pattern of you're going to do this every day, you're going to do this once a week, follow up, reporting, that travels a long way down that path to basically what you've described here of setting up the processes, automating, making people responsible for well, I guess in a law firm, the billing would be the revenue, right? And then having it catch the small problems before they get into big problems. If you're going to implement a new software, a new AI, try it out first, the free trial process rather than the automatic renewal. Yeah. So you
It
can,
can be uncomfortable. There's no question it can
right.
be, uncomfortable in the moment. But, I think long term,
Yeah.
it creates a much healthier business. Having that regular cadence, that rhythm, that
Correct.
predictability, that discipline. At first people fight it like, well,
Oh,
fight and
yeah.
claw to avoid it. But
Right.
once it's baked into the org, it's baked into the culture, then
Yeah.
I think everybody has a more predictable experience.
That's the key. And then everyone expects it to get done, and you're the odd man out if you blow it off or forget about it. So what is a decision that you had to make that was unpopular but necessary for growth?
That's an easy one, Randall. It's toughest decision is walking away from a large customer. Let's say you have a customer that's 40% of your rev, but they're it's a margin drain, negative margin. It's much better. It was very hard to do, but it was It was the responsible thing to do because we replaced that revenue with better fit
Mhm.
clients, and so with better fit clients, we improve profitability, rather quickly. So the thought that all revenue is good revenue is not quite true. Sometimes removing the wrong customers, not sometimes, but in all cases, removing wrong customers create more capacity for the right ones. This manifests itself in practice areas. I mean, if you aren't having a lot of success in family law or whatever practice you're in, and sometimes it's better just to make the decision to cut and focus your capacity on a practice area where you're more efficient and the margins are better and the clients are easier to work with.
I wrote down negative margin. I'm going to have to think on that one, but I see what you're saying is the client's still paying, you're still getting the revenue in, so it on the surface it looks like a good client because they're paying and you're making it. But then when you factor in all of the other problems that come with that client, or the uncompensated demands, or the making phone calls in the middle of the night for silly little nonsense, and that's
all the soft costs, Randall. You know them all.
I tell you.
You know a profitable client versus a negative margin client in a minute.
I just didn't know it had a name. So
I made that up.
What are the CEOs actually the bottleneck? And then what do you do about it?
Most CEOs are.
Okay.
I mean, they are. And I hate to say it, but most of them realize it. What gets a company to 10 million with that same CEO will break at 30 million. The CEOs who are
I don't know that yet. No, I don't. Go ahead.
Well, I've seen it, and it's not pretty. You don't want to be the bottleneck. I mean, the CEOs that I've seen who have scaled successfully are ones that build around their deficiencies and gaps and actually let go of control and delegate. And I know it's harder than it sounds. There's no question. But I think the linchpin there is self-awareness and understanding that it's a defining trait between those who scale and those who stall. I mean, I've seen founders hold on to a decision too long. It slows the entire organization down, and you can waste months and years, with
everything's backed up. Everything is overthought and under too much thinking, not enough action, and then not realizing the knowledge is not there and it never will be there, and it's got to move or die.
That's right.
So if you could force a founder to implement one discipline, what would that? I mean, on the same line, what would that one thing be that they should change, or that they have to change?
No question. This is something that nobody wants to do. It's obvious, but it's consistently overlooked, and that's a weekly financial review. Not a monthly, weekly. So you're reviewing cash, you're reviewing revenue versus your forecast. You're looking at the variances and you're explaining those variances. It shortens the feedback loop, and it dramatically improves decision making if you're talking about the money every week. I mean, the faster you see the reality, the faster you can adjust your strategy. So, I hate to say it, but the truth will set you free. Most companies don't have a visibility problem, quite frankly. They just have a timing problem. So your time to seeing that reality it can be outcome determinative.
Yeah, I've seen lawyers that have to put second mortgages on their houses. They got that $10 million case. The other side's not just going to roll over and fork over $10 million. You got to fight for it. You got costs, you got publishing, you got notifying the class in the class action. You've got the experts, got the printing costs, the delivery, the emergency paralegals that have to come in on the weekend to get the filing done Monday morning. And the firm doesn't have the money, so they got to tap the lawyers themselves. They got to go to their wives.
Sounds like you're familiar with this, intimately
I've
familiar
seen it. I've not done it. Thank God, but I've seen it. They got to get your spouse in there to sign, puts their house up for jeopardy. But this is one case, but this is going to be the case, guaranteed. This is gonna do it, and then
it'll make everybody well.
Yeah, and then the other side knows it, and they stretch it out and delay it, and lowball offer after lowball offer, and
like out of a movie.
They have a nightmare. Slow water torture. Yeah. So I guess the overall theme is make sure that you have the knowledge and that you involve the other people in it also, and make sure you have the right people, the right legal structure, and then the knowledge is, you have to stay up to date. You have to know stuff early, and then you can discover it early, fix the problem early, or change your strategy early.
Correct.
And then you see it coming right away rather than when it's too late, before it's too late.
Right. The faster you see it, the faster you can adjust.
So then what you would do then is make sure all the valves are functioning, all the turbines are coordinated, and all at the same time, and then like a chief in an engine room almost.
Exactly.
And then make sure everything's going correctly, and then the crew is out doing what they're doing, and you're moving things ahead before the boiler explodes. or you run out of fuel or whatever, right? The valves break, belts come undone. So that's your
Yep.
overall role, and then train the people to see it like you see it. Build that into the firm, into the, I guess, and then ultimately change the culture so that all of that becomes normal and expected instead of unexpected or paranoia inducing or an attack on competence or annoying, or there he goes again with another idea. So it becomes part of the daily routine, and then everyone just expects it, and eventually everyone understands it, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then expand, then grow, right? Once you've got that, or as you get that,
Scale. It's time to scale.
scale up, right, right. So what's the first move? So you come in, there are all these different problems. You look the situation over, you identify the problems, and then you have executives who want to grow. And then what's the first move that you would do?
Again, I'll come back to the using the audit word, but I would probably run a constraint audit. I figure out where the business is fragile. Is it the
Mhm.
people, systems, bad vendors? Most teams can easily overestimate their capacity to
Right.
absorb growth. So you have to
Mhm.
fix those weak points first and then scale. Growth doesn't break companies, generally speaking. Weak foundations absolutely break companies. So the companies that scale best are the ones that strengthen the system before turning on the spigots. Every scaling issue I've seen ties back to something that leadership was probably already aware of. They knew
But
something was fragile, but didn't address it early enough.
right, pushed it off to the
So yeah,
side.
so I think fix the weak areas,
Mhm.
get a solid foundation, and then scale from there.
And then I guess as you scale, keep everything together that you started at, as you said, from 10 million to 30 million. It's got to be the same discipline as you grow. You can't
Agreed.
just
Agreed,
celebrate. Now we
100%.
made it. We can celebrate, relax, and throw all the procedures out the window.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yep,
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. I mean, scaling, not to, to kind of put a
Mhm.
bow around this. Scaling is not about how fast you can grow. It's about, how much your system can actually absorb. There's no question that if you took 15 consults a day, you could easily add 3 or 4 clients a day.
Right.
But can your system actually absorb three or
Yeah.
four new clients a day?
Right. Right.
So your company won't. It's not that you're going to fail because there's demand for your services.
Mhm.
You're going to fail because you're not able to provide the white glove experience. You
Right.
just don't have the capacity.
I'm sad to say that some of those stories are told in public, in cases, in bar complaints and things like that. Not dishonest lawyers, just for whatever reason, things went wrong.
That's right.
And you can kind of see it, that they just got frazzled, as you said, keeping too much control, not delegating, not having the systems, not knowing what was going on, not auditing. Yeah, I mean that whole idea of that you should audit what you're doing. You should go in there and know, like you said, how often do your contracts, how many contracts do you have? Who do you have contracts with? How often, how much does it cost? How often do they renew? Is it one fee, or is it one per lawyer, one per timekeeper? Then they renew, then you're on the hook for another year or 2 years, upgrades. That whole concept of constantly auditing to just dig in and figure out what's going on and where, and somebody starts to slack off or client goes wacko, goes what's the word for it, unique or idiosyncratic, as you say. Should you keep that client? Can you accomplish what you want? Does the client have expectations not aligned with you? And then you should have systems that, well, I guess the answer is don't audit, right? The answer is have systems that do it all for you, have the right
Well,
people.
that can certainly bring some predictability to your day, that's for sure.
Right, right. And then knowing who's paying what and how much you're paying them, what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing. And then how fast can you grow? If you bring in a monster case every week, can you devote the time and the people and the brain power towards that? One thing if the trial is next year, another thing if the trial is 3 months from now.
Exactly.
And then,
There's
so what do you see? I mean, I guess as the future, I guess maybe getting back to the AI, the automation, is it? I think you already said that the people still have to be involved in it, no matter how much automation you have or AI, still got to be a human to judge it all.
That's correct. No, I mean, AI is with us and it's changing everything.
Hmm.
Every minute that goes by, there are more applications,
Hmm.
more creativity being used.
Right.
If used responsibly, it's a game changer in
Hmm.
terms of work efficiency. If used irresponsibly as a shortcut in the field of law, for instance, you can absolutely run into a buzzsaw. I suspect that the legal space is going to adopt AI, but they're going to adopt it responsibly, and they'll use their training and
Hmm.
judgment to be sure that information that's generated from AI, is conforms with ethics
Right. Right.
bar rules and the court rules, and so I think it's going to be okay. I don't think a lot of people are afraid of AI.
Hmm.
And I think there's lots of use cases that you can point to that would definitely scare you away. But if you're able to look past that and to really deconstruct what happened, you'll find that it was probably somebody trying to take a shortcut or that
Right.
were irresponsible.
I mean, and I kind of see it from the client's point of view. They want a human. They don't want a robot probating their estate or defending them in court or whatever. They want somebody there that is sort of the guide. Get them to the minefield, and they want someone and not something to do that for them.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
to the extent you use it as a just one more tool, I think that's the proper one, but you can't use it to substitute. And I don't think the clients want that either. I think the clients realize what we're doing
Well
here is,
said.
yeah, is a service business and not you're not getting a self-driving car. You're getting, a human being to guide you through probably the worst experience of your life.
Right.
And then you just got to do it efficiently, consistently, profitably, and then repeat.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yep. All right. Well, very good. Any parting words or any predictions you want to
Um,
make here?
Nope, I think we kind of closed it up with, I think we wrapped it up nicely by both of us reaching consensus on the fact that scaling is not how fast you can grow, but it's about how
All right.
much growth your system can absorb, and we can leave it at that.
Yep.
And it was great chatting with you. Thank you for inviting me to your
Oh,
podcast.
very good. Thank you. All right, everyone. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed this, and please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. And I very much appreciate Brad coming and sharing this all with us, and hopefully we all are better for it. Thank you very much.